Hey mathematicians, today we are going to learn about complementary and supplementary angles. In order to calculate with those angles, we need to know what those words mean. So a complementary angle is an angle whose parts add up to 90 degrees. A supplementary angle is an angle whose parts add up to 180 degrees. A 90-degree angle is a right angle. We know this. We have practiced this. A supplementary angle is a straight line. So one way you can remember it is that a supplementary angle is a straight line. They both start with S. Another way you could remember it is by the order that we do things. When you say the ABCs, C comes before S. When you count, 90 comes before 180. Over here on our diagrams, we have got two angles set up here. We've got ACB, and it's made up of two separate angles. And then we've got EFH, made up of two separate angles. You can tell that ACB is a straight line, and EFH is a 90-degree angle because they gave us this box in the corner that tells us that it is a 90-degree angle. Without that information, we should not trust that it is a 90-degree angle. I did not mean to turn that, sorry. Okay, number one says that the measure of angle EFG, that is this angle, is 42 degrees. We need to find the measure of angle GFH. So we know this is 42, and we need to find this. Well, we know that 42 plus something equals 90 because EFH is a 90-degree angle. So we can solve this like a one-step equation. That tells us x is equal to 48, so we would say the measure of angle GFH equals 48 degrees. Okay, now we have problem number 2. That tells us that the measure of GFH is 19 degrees, so let's trace that angle. GFH is 19 degrees, so we don't know that one. But we do know that all of those angles, both of those angles will add up to 90. So we can say 19 plus x equals 90. We'll subtract 19 from both sides. So we know x is 71, which tells us that the measure of angle EFG equals 71 degrees. Okay. Number 3 says the measure of angle EFG is 66 degrees. So we're going to go back to our diagram here and make some changes. And that was EFG, so that's here, 66 degrees. So you can set up your equation, solve it. I'd like you to pause while you work that out and then come back when you are ready to check your answer. You can see here that the measure of angle GFH is 24 degrees. If you would like to see how I did that, the equation is set up there for you. Problem number 4 says that the measure of angle GFH, so they're swapping which one they give us again, is 39 degrees. And we need to find the measure of EFG. So set up your equation, pause the video, solve it, come back when you're ready to check it. Here you can see the answer. The measure of angle EFG is 51 degrees. All right, we are ready to move on to number 5. Number 5 is an I do problem. And they tell us the measure of angle ACD is 42 degrees. So you may have noticed our numbers changed. We're going to go to the other diagram. ACD is 42 degrees. And then all of these angles, both of these here, will add up to 180. So we will set up our equation a little differently. We'll say 42 plus x equals 180 because it was a straight line. So we'll take 42 away from both sides. And that gets us 138. So our final answer would be measure of angle DCB equals 138. Okay. Now they're telling us that the measure of angle DCB is 81 degrees. So let's go back and look at our diagram. We're going to change some labeling here. That was 81, and that's DCB. So we know this angle on the right, we're looking for this angle on the left. Regardless, it still makes a straight line. So we'll say 81 plus x equals 180. Subtract 81 from both sides. And that tells us x is equal to 99. So we would say as our final answer, the measure of angle ACD equals 99 degrees. Okay. Number 7 is a you-do problem. The measure of angle ACD is 110 degrees. So if you want to go back up and look at your diagram, that's this guy. We're looking for that guy. So set up your equation, pause the video and solve it, come back when you're ready to check your work. We have our answer here. The measure of angle DCB is 70 degrees. If you need to see how I got there, you can see the equation on the left. And last, problem number 8 says the measure of angle DCB is 18 degrees. At this point, you probably don't need the diagram. You know that DCB is part of the straight angle, but if you want to fill it in, you can. You know that it's going to add up to 180. So go ahead and set up your equation, pause the video, come back when you're ready to check your answer. You can see here that the answer is the measure of angle ACD is 162 degrees. If you need to see my reasoning, it is there on the left. At this point, we need you to self-assess, figure out how many stars you would give yourself. 3 would be, we could give you any problem like what was on this page and you'd be able to solve it no problem. A 4 would be, we might be able to give you something a little bit more challenging, maybe throw in a variable into one of the numbers and say you could solve what the variable is. A 2 would be you might need a little bit of help, but you're going to get there. A 1 would be you're real scared and need some help. After you self-assess, give your reflection. In 3 months' time, if you took a quiz, what is the top 2 to 3 things you would need to know on that quiz? When you are done, you can move on to our practice problems.